Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you. Welcome to Empower Fantastic Life. Find your power, live without limits. Today, we're going to dive into something really fascinating, our emotions. We'll be looking at a powerful tool to help us, really master our inner world. So let's just start with a really simple question, one you've probably already heard or answered today. How was your day? It sounds so basic, right? But I want you to just pause for a second and think about how you usually answer that. For most of us, the go-to answers are things like fine, good, tired. But those words, they're really just the tip of the iceberg, aren't they? What if we could actually go a little deeper? What if we could explore that rich, complex world of feelings that's simmering just beneath the surface? And that brings us to this really powerful idea from a researcher named Mark Brackett. He says emotions aren't right or wrong, they are data. Now, that shift in perspective, it's everything. It's the key. Instead of judging our feelings as good or bad, what if we started seeing them as valuable information, as little signals telling us something really important about what's going on inside us and around us? Okay, so if emotions are data, how in the world do we read it? How do we interpret it? Well, that's where something called the mood meter comes in. It's a tool that acts like a GPS for your feelings. It's designed to help you pinpoint exactly where you are emotionally speaking. Let's take a look at how it works. So the mood meter is built on two really simple axes. Think of a graph. Running side to side, horizontally, you have pleasantness from low to high. And then running up and down, vertically, you have energy, also from low to high. And these two lines, they create four different quadrants, four completely different emotional landscapes. All right, let's start with the top left, the red quadrant. This is where you have really high energy but really low pleasantness. This is the zone for feelings like anger, irritation, anxiety. You know the feeling. Imagine you're late for a super important meeting and you are just stuck bumper to bumper in traffic. That feeling? That's pure red quadrant. Now, this state can be useful for, say, a short burst of energy in a competition, but living in the red, it's just completely draining. Okay, moving over to the top right, we've got the yellow quadrant. This is the sweet spot, high energy and high pleasantness. This is the home of joy, optimism, excitement. Think about a fantastic brainstorming session with your team where amazing ideas are just flying around and the energy is absolutely contagious. That's yellow. It's the perfect state for creativity, for learning, for getting things done. Now let's drop down to the bottom right, to the green quadrant. Here we have low energy but high pleasantness. This is that calm, content feeling. When you're sipping a coffee on a quiet weekend morning, just feeling totally at peace. This is the ideal space for reflection, for mindfulness, and for building those really deep, meaningful connections with other people. And finally, we have the bottom left, the blue quadrant, low energy and low pleasantness. This is where we feel things like sadness, disappointment, loneliness. And look, it can be a really uncomfortable place to be, for sure, but it's also a necessary one. This is the space where our minds process difficult experiences, where we reflect deeply, and where ultimately we find our path toward healing and growth. So the mood meter is great. It helps us figure out where we are. But then what? What do we do with that information? Well, this is where the ruler method comes into play. You can think of it as the operating manual for our emotions. RULER is an acronym, R-U-L-E-R, and it stands for 5 key skills. First, you recognize the emotion, in yourself, in others, through body language or tone. Then, you understand it. What's causing it? What might the consequences be? Next, and this is a big one, you label it with a very specific word. After that, you figure out how to express that feeling appropriately. And finally, you regulate it. This is all about managing the emotion so that it helps you reach your goals, instead of, getting in your way. Okay, I want to zoom in on that third step for a second, labeling. It sounds so simple, right? Just name the feeling. But trust me, the act of naming an emotion with real precision is an absolute game changer for your brain. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got these vague feelings. I feel bad. What does that even mean? Compare that to the right. I feel disappointed. See how much more information is in that? Or think about, I'm stressed. That's such a catch-all phrase. But are you stressed, or do you actually feel ignored? Or maybe agitated? Just moving from that left column to the right column, that right there is the first and most crucial step towards actually managing how you feel. And here's the really cool part, the science behind it. When you find that exact word for what you're feeling, it's like you're sending a message directly to your brain's alarm system. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala, and its job is to sound the alarm when it senses a threat. By naming the feeling, you're basically telling that alarm, hey, message received, I see you, I know what this is. And what's amazing is that studies show this simple act literally calms down the activity in the amygdala. It helps you shift from being purely reactive to being thoughtful and responsive. So, this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually put it into practice? How do we make this a habit? Well, building emotional awareness is a lot like building a muscle. It just takes a simple, consistent, daily practice. Here is a super simple 3-step check-in that you can do anytime, anywhere. First, just pause and check in. Ask yourself, where am I on the mood meter right now? Red, yellow, green, or blue? Second, ask why. Get curious. Be a detective about your own feelings. What caused me to land in this quadrant? And third, choose a strategy. Do I want to stay here or do I want to shift? If you're in the red and need to calm down, maybe the strategy is a quick 5-minute walk outside. If you're in the blue and you need a bit of a lift, maybe the strategy is sending a text to a friend. The strategy is your personal action plan. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Mastering our inner world isn't about trying to get rid of bad emotions. That's not the goal. It's about learning to listen and understand the incredibly valuable messages they're trying to send us. So here's my question for you. The next time you feel a really strong emotion bubbling up, will you be able to pause just for a moment and ask yourself, what is this data trying to tell me right now? You've been listening to Empower Fantastic Life, Jaeger Empowerment Academy. See you next time. Bye-bye.